So this is a Ravensburger 1,000-piece puzzle called World of Words that shows a library with lots and lots of yellow tones. So this was a puzzle actually gifted to me by my parents. They had picked it up at a thrift shop, and someone had written in all caps on the front, hard. And so my parents worked on it for a couple weeks over a vacation, and then brought it to me and said, so how quickly do you think you can do this? My answer was, I don't really speed run 1,000-piece puzzles because I don't generally have, sort of 3 hours to dedicate to speed running 1,000-piece, but I will do it somewhat casually and see. So I decided actually with this puzzle to start with the border, not necessarily the smartest strategically. And you can see that as I'm opportunistically seeing these red pieces down towards the bottom, I'm pulling them as well. But I decided to start with the border on this one because I work with a below average size table for my 1,000 pieces. It's really helpful for me to have the border first so I kind of know what I'm working with, as opposed to having to try to build it later when there are pieces everywhere. So I try to use the border as a space management tool. So here we go. So as you see, I'm starting to see these red chunks, and as I see them, I'm putting them together. I'm also starting to notice some other colored chunks, some sort of lighter chunks and other things as well. As I see them, I'm grabbing them and putting them together. I'm not really stopping and saying, hey, this is the next chunk I'm going to work on, because based on looking at that image on the box, I don't see what chunks I'm going to be able to see and actually do meaningfully. So it's going a little slowly, but definitely making progress. So as you see, the border is almost done. I'm almost an hour in at this point, actually, but casually puzzling, so obviously it's a little bit different. So working here on just trying to figure out, hey, how can I get I'm going to sort of figure out what I'm working with. So I've gotten the border at least somewhat placed. I've gotten these red stool and red couch placed. I have removed my cat from the vicinity. I've brought in some music to listen to. You can see my laptop on the side now. My cat loves to be involved with puzzles. The channel is actually named after her. My name is not Madison. My cat is named Madison. And she is so set on doing puzzles with me that when I started the channel to just, show some of the hundreds of time lapses I was taking for myself, I figured I had to name it after her because she's my #1 puzzle supporter. So anyway, as you can see, I'm working a little slowly here. I'm listening to a podcast, listening to music, and more slowly moving. But what I'm trying to look for now is, you can see in the image a little bit, you've got these arches in the room, in the image, and I'm trying to spot some of those big lines, those big diagonal lines, and build them. So my goal with building those big diagonal lines is it cuts up the puzzle so that I can have smaller chunks to actually work on. Those lines were somewhat hard to spot. And so I'm not going super fast on them. You can see on the side where I've opportunistically spotted some bookshelves. I've actually put them together and attached them in. So yeah, going a little more slowly than I would say I would love for a puzzle to go, but that is what it is. This puzzle had a note on it that said hard. I did think it was hard, but I didn't think it was actually terrible. And the reason for that was that once you kind of figured out, okay, I can build the stool, I can build some of this art on the walls, I can build these diagonal lines, it actually started to cut it down enough that you could start to really see, oh, here's where some books are going to go. Oh, here are some other books going to go. And because the books were differently colored, which you can't quite see in that front image, it was fairly easy to actually put them together. You could say, oh, here's a red book. It's got to go with this other red book. Still not an easy puzzle by any means. I don't want to make it seem like this was not a difficult puzzle. But I think it was not as bad as I expected from the very large warning on the front. So what I'm doing now is I've gotten those main diagonal lines done. And so I'm filling in some of the bottom up. And so it's not really visible as much in this image, but you could see actually in real life that those bottom pieces were slightly differently colored. So they were a lighter shade of yellowy brown than the top pieces in many places. And so I was looking for shades of that yellow-brown, pulling shades and using that to help me build out the bottom. And so as you see, I've gotten probably about a third of the puzzle done now. Still going. There's a little bit of a hunt and peck going on here just because there are a lot of pieces. And they are pretty similar looking. I'm starting to see a little bit of gradient, but not a lot. I think strategically, if I thought about doing this puzzle for speed, my first thing would be probably don't. My second thing would be I would probably stick with the same strategy that I had, which was the red bits, the border, then some of the art and the diagonal lines. I think I would just have to focus more and go faster. I'm not clear that there's really a great winning strategy for this one, other than to try to fit the pieces together just because it is pretty busy. There is an argument, could I have shape sorted sooner? Definitely. If I was working on this one, especially for teams, I would definitely have shape sorted sooner. Or if I was on a team with someone who's great at seeing gradients, for example, I might have done more work separating out the darker yellow-brown and the lighter yellow-brown. But I was also somewhat casually puzzling, and so didn't do those things. You can tell I'm casually puzzling because there's a drink on the side. When I'm speed puzzling, I try not to have my coffee, my tea, or my water actually on my table because I am liable to just knock it off in a fit of I must go faster. Speed puzzling is a real sport. So there was a momentary pause there. I have come back to the puzzle the next day. You can see the light has changed. This actually made it way easier. I didn't realize how much of a gradient difference there was in the puzzle based on the light before, because I had a yellowish sort of desk lamp that was lighting up, switched over to midday natural light, and was like, wow, I can actually see the puzzle. And so you're seeing I'm really picking up speed now, finishing up that bottom section, and then seeing those vertical lines along the top that I'm also trying to just complete. And here we are. So I'm not yet shape sorted, although in retrospect, this might not have been a bad time to start shape sorting. I'm just sort of getting in some pieces where I can find them and fit them. It's going pretty quickly though, as you can see. There's quite a lot of pieces that are fitting in, and I'm having a lot of luck with these vertical columns. So not as quickly as, I would hope in competition, but they're actually going fairly quickly. This is an example of a time where you should say shape sort, and I have not. You're starting to see a little bit of it on the left, but, not really. I'm just doing and I'm doing some now, but definitely should have done that sooner. But yes, here we are. We are getting in the home stretch. There we go. 4 hours and 9 minutes, which was, for this puzzle, really was not bad at all. Was happy to report that back to my parents.